Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1127B, and today's date is November 14th, 2016, and the title of the episode is, The Shadow Government Might Be Planning Something Bigger Than the Protests. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, Donald Trump had his first interview on 60 Minutes, and they talked about a lot of different things. And we can see right now that he says that he's going to be talking with FBI Director Comey. He's deciding whether to ask for his resignation. He also says he respects him a lot. He also pledged to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate the Clintons. And he says he really doesn't want to hurt them. They're good people, which is kind of opposite of what he said during the debates. He also said that he's fine with same-sex marriage. He does not intend to overturn the Supreme Court ruling. And he is not going to take a salary while he's president, which he really doesn't need. But if you look at the other senators, the other politicians who are very, very wealthy, don't fool yourself. The Clintons are very wealthy. They have hundreds of millions of dollars. A lot of the other politicians, very, very wealthy. And these individuals have no problem taking a salary. Trump is also telling the protesters, we need peace, we have calm, don't be afraid. And we can see that he is wondering why Obama and Clinton aren't out there saying, listen, we need peace, we need calm, please don't riot. We're not seeing any of that. Now, we know that Trump visited the White House. He met with Obama. And normally when the new president is coming in and the old president is leaving, there's a long-standing tradition where they take a photo together. The current and future first couples. This is a customary photo op. They usually have it outside the south entrance of the White House. And it seems that Obama and his wife, they didn't want to take the photo. For whatever reason, which I find very interesting. We see there's a lot of protests. There's rioting on the streets. We see there's big celebrities using words like revolution. We look at Katy Perry, Sarah Silverman, and many others, where they're saying that, it's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to have some type of revolution in the streets. And we can see right now the movements are being called the Purple Revolution. But we know this is all funded by George Soros from MoveOn.org, Black Lives Matter. But they're having protests in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Oakland, Nashville, Cleveland, Washington, Austin, Seattle, Philadelphia, Richmond, and some other 200 cities. Now, they're all saying that this is all grassroots, where people are just coming out. They're just everyday people. Even USA Today, they wrote an article to discredit the idea that there's no professional activists involved in this whatsoever. And they actually invite you to meet the protesters. Look, we have a protester here who is just a normal, everyday person. Her name is Young Jung Chu. She's 26. But then we come to find out, if we do a little research and we look into the WikiLeaks information, we see that this individual is a professional protester, is an organizer. And when we see this, we can see that she has organized a candlelight vigil in front of the White House on Wednesday. Said about 2,000 people showed up. And when we look at her, we can see that she's not an average citizen. She's in the Podesta files. She's described as a 350 action campaign coordinator. So she's an action campaign coordinator. She didn't just come out of the blue off the streets and say, hey, let's all get together. It was planned. When we look at another individual, Phil Roeder, a public school official with no disclosed interest except the welfare of his students. Phil Roeder, concerned public servant, well, he's a veteran Democratic activist. Once again, it's in the WikiLeaks emails, and we can see right now that he is a professional activist, and he was an organizer for Obama in 2008. So these are not people who are just coming off the streets. These are people who are organizing all of this. And then we have video of buses being brought in with the protesters. Now think about what they're doing here. They're busing people in to all of these cities. They're creating chaos on the streets. They're trying to get people in this country completely divided, because a nation that is divided, well, it cannot function. And this is what they want. They want chaos. They want a nation divided. They want the riots. Because if we become together as one, we'll be able to figure out what is really going on here. We'll be able to figure out who is responsible and who has been doing this to the country. And this is what they're most afraid of. And I'm talking about them, the central bank, the shadow government, the deep state. They're very nervous about this. So what are they planning? Well, it looks like they're planning a little bit more than just protests. They're hoping to create chaos, maybe state of emergency throughout the country. And on Facebook right now, they're trying to recruit people for a gigantic protest while Trump is being inaugurated. And right now they have about 7,800 people that indicated they'll be attending, 26,000 people saying that, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this. But we can see right now their agenda is to create complete chaos in this country, divide the country as much as they possibly can, and at the same time try to have the shadow government, the central banks, the deep state take control of our country, or put a lot of pressure on Trump so he obeys them. Now we see the New York Times is out there, and the executive editor and publisher, well, they're saying, yeah, okay, we haven't really been reporting the news that accurately out in the Middle East and throughout Europe and during the Trump campaign. So now we promise to report the news more accurately. So wait a minute, they were lying to the people, and all of a sudden they were caught, because, you know, it's all going to start coming out, the truth, and we're going to start to realize that the corporate media hasn't been telling the people the truth, and now they're trying to cover their tracks, saying, we're going to do a better job and really report the news accurately. I mean, like you should have been doing from the beginning. But they haven't. Because there is no investigating reporting. All they do is take whatever the government says, what the shadow government says, and they use it. It's called propaganda. That's what they've been using on the everyday people throughout the country. They are allowed to use propaganda, and they've been using it all along. And again, propaganda, there is no facts that supports what they've been saying. It's all about words and illusion and lies to make everyone feel like they're telling the truth. And in reality, there's no truth at all to whatever they're saying. Now, we see that since the election has occurred, other countries are looking at their elections, and they realize that, wow, we can really change things. We don't have to do what the establishment wants. And we see a movement going on right now where there's dozens of elections that are going to be held in Europe during the next 12 months. And we can see that a lot of these individuals might be in trouble. And this is something to watch out there. We see out in Spain, there's 80,000 Catalans out there where they're saying, you know something, it is time for us to have our independence. And 80,000 people rallied in Barcelona on Sunday and to show support for the Catalan leaders locked in political battle with Madrid over the independence referendum. And the people are saying that, listen, Catalonia pays more taxes than it should to the central government. Nearly 9% of the ballots were in favor of independence, but only 2 million of the 5.4 million eligible voters cast their ballots. And now they're out there once again trying to push their independence. We see there are European allies, Bulgaria and Moldova. Well, they voted for pro-Russian presidents, and they dropped their pro-European Union presidents. And we can see Igor Dodon, and in Bulgaria we see Rumen Radev, and we can see that things are changing around the world. And the shadow government, the central banks, they're looking at this entire situation, and they've had plans. Now remember, these people aren't gods. These people are everyday people. Most of them are morons. And they plan on certain things to happen. They believe that the people, they won't give us any problems. And if they do, we'll just get rid of them with war. But we can see right now the people are trying to take back their countries. They're trying to take back control. And there's going to be a fight between the central bank, the shadow governments, and the people. And this is what we're seeing right now. We see that Russia is going to be flying over the United States between November 14th, which is today, and the 19th. They're going to be flying out of the Travis Air Force Base, which is located in California, and they'll be flying the plane over the United States. We see right now out in Syria, dozens of people were killed from an unidentified aircraft, and this was in the Kurdish area. Most likely it was Turkey. We also see that the Syrian army seized a weapons factory in Syria, which belonged to al-Sham, al-Nusra, and al-Qaeda. And they used the factory to produce mortar shells, Hellfire cannons, and improvised explosive devices. And we can see Trump is out there saying, you know something? I might have to stop funding these moderate rebels. We shouldn't have to fund these people because we should be fighting the Islamic State. We should not be fighting Assad. We should be fighting the Islamic State. So he's looking into this, saying, what are we doing out there? And of course, Ashton Carter is saying, well, the plans are, to get ISIS, but they're very secretive, and there are secret tactics involved to go after the Islamic State in all these different areas. And we can see right now that all of these individuals that were behind supporting the terrorists, behind this theater, this war theater, they are worried now that they're going to be found out. Actually, Carter is not expected to stay on once the next administration comes in. We see that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, they had a phone call together. They talked about combating international terrorism, extremism, and settling the crisis in Syria. Everything the central bank, everything the deep state, the shadow governments do not want. So there is a battle going on right now between the people and those who want war, those who want control. And we can see right now, we don't know exactly which way Trump is going to go. Right now, everything that he's saying is very positive. Everything that he's talking about is very positive. Tsipras did the same exact thing in Greece and then turned on the people. And this is something we need to watch, because we need to watch Trump's actions. We need to understand what he's really going to do once he has the sit down, once he understands what's really going on, once he starts putting his policies into motion. Because the deep state, the shadow government, the central bank, they are not going to stop. They believe they still can win. They believe they still can have a war. And they will do whatever they have to get and fulfill their goals. I mean, really think about what has happened right now. They spent all these years prepping, conditioning, creating the atmosphere that they wanted for this new world order. They almost had the TTIP, the TPP passed. Because all they would need is to get that in, have it passed, and they would have a court system that sat on top of sovereign governments. They passed the internet off to the UN for the UN to control it. Everything was in motion. They've been working on this for years. They're not just going to let it go. And I do believe once this economy, not just here in the United States, globally, falls apart, they might even make their move at that point, hoping to bring Donald Trump down at that time, hoping to set the blame on him, because we know the corporate media is going to completely turn and say, well, Obama had a recovery, you crashed the economy. We can see this happening. Will it happen? We don't know. But we know they're going to make some type of play. We know before he's inaugurated that they're going to create these riots, which we're seeing right now, but they're going to intensify. They're going to push protests. Will they be able to do it all the way up until January? I don't know. The holidays are coming. People might lose interest. After a couple days, you know what people say? Okay, it's enough. We got our anger out. Let's get on with our lives here. We'll have to see how long they push this for. But we know they have plans. We know they're just not going to stop. And I can see them trying to take control during that economic collapse, which we know they have the green light. We know everything is in place for this collapse. And we know there is an individual who has experience in this. I know people are out there saying, well, what experience does Trump have? He's never held office. He's never been in the Senate. Really? Being in the Senate and being a career politician gives you experience of leading a country? A leader is not created in school. A leader is not because you're a career politician. A true leader is someone who truly didn't want the job in the first place, who's not doing it for fame, glory, who's doing it because he or she really wants to help. And the leader, it comes from within. They already have it. They don't need training. They don't need schooling. They need understanding, experience. They need to understand what the people want, what the people are asking for. And that leader will then rise and lead the people. They don't need training. I know many people think that. Many people think, well, they have to be in the Senate. They have to be a career politician. There was no such thing as a career politician. Think about it. Back when our founding fathers found this country, they were career politicians. They knew how to lead a country. They've done it before. Actually, what president, before he became president, actually led a country? Never. So we can see right now that there is hope. Hopefully we do have a leader Hopefully we have a man that has experience when a collapse hits, where he can say, okay, this is what we need to do to restructure everything. It's going to hurt, but we all have to come together. It's not going to be pretty, but we all have to come together. And maybe during this period of time, it's our time as a people to come together, to follow the leader, to get rid of the central bank, to get rid of the shadow government, to get rid of those individuals that have run the country for such a long time. Now it's time for the people. I hope Donald Trump is that person. I hope he can do it. I hope he's not swayed by the dark side, I'll call it. But we can see we're entering a new area, and we all need to start to come together now. This is our chance. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.